Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and today we're taking a look at some smaller knives that can punch way above their size. These are little in the hand, but they can mix it up with knives that are a lot bigger and do some really hard work in the process. Let's check them out. So we're kind of thinking of this video as kind of the counterpart to the video we ran last week on the biggest, baddest folders out there. There's a lot of attitude and a lot of capability built into some of those guys, but they're oftentimes bigger than most of us are going to want to carry, and even in some scenarios be able to carry, depending on where we're going. So I started thinking, how much of that attitude, how much of that hard use capability can we get in knives with just a 3-inch blade? So let's see what we got here. And in a way, this video is kind of inspired by one of my personal choices for this style of knife with the Spyderco Para 3, because it's a knife that is small. It's just got a 3-inch blade, but you don't feel, or I at least don't feel, handicapped when I do carry this blade. I feel like it feels like a larger knife in your hand and when you're using it, and you really can get a lot of stuff done with these guys. Now, the biggest reason for having a feeling like that isn't so much the length of the blade. It's a little bit of the shape of the blade, but even more so, it's the handle itself. For example, I mean, there's 3-inch knives and then there's 3-inch knives. I've got an MKM flame right here, and it's got a little bit more edge length, but in terms of actual amount of edge, they're about the same between these two knives. But you're pretty apparently going to be able to tell me which one of these knives you think you're going to be able to work harder than the other, and that is definitely the Spyderco. The Para 3 in its standard G10 format comes in about $147 right now for the base model, made in the USA, and you've got G10 handles with an S30V blade. And for the auspices of this particular video, I wouldn't consider the lightweight version really to be a hard use, small but mighty knife, just because you've got this instead. But if you like the form factor but you want a little less weight, there is that lightweight version as well. But with that blade, you've got that nice full flat grind, good slicing characteristics. Now the handle, I like it, but it is a little bit odd, and in a way it doesn't always make sense to me, but it does work. You've got standard grip section back here, which for me, my 3 fingers fit in there quite nicely with my 4th hanging off the back. And with that, the edge points at a very nice angle. It presents forward very easily. You're going to be able to control and intuitively manipulate that very easily. And then for the heavier grips, kind of the gorilla grip like I like to call it, the swells of the handle don't necessarily match up to my hand specifically, but it still feels good and it still feels like it's ready to plow through some materials. Inside the G10, you've got Spyderco's compression lock, which does one of those things that I always appreciate. Lets you keep your fingers out of the blade path when you're closing, but it also allows for very smooth opening and closing too. 4-position pocket clip, so you can carry it just about any way you like. A nice oversized lanyard hole. It really does cover a lot of bases very nicely. EDC, small tactical, small backup knife, but it's one that can take the place of your primary carry. All right, next we're going to go with, I'll show you some budget things first as we get into some more options. And there's a lot of options for this that kind of meet this criteria, in my mind at least, in Spyderco's lineup. So I will show you one of their budget offerings here as well, and that's the Efficient. And these guys come in a little bit less than $50 right now. So very, very much more competitively priced for the budget buyer. The blade shape is a little more drop point in nature rather than the Para 3 style with the straight spine. And it's a little bit thinner as well, but still plenty of durable there for some harder uses. Steel is an 8CR13 MOV, not an edge retention champ for sure, but very easy to maintain. Now the handle on the Efficient, to me, is even more comfortable than that Para 3. It has some similarities though. In the standard grip, with just like my last 3 fingers here, we've got a little bit more of an elliptical nature here, so it's a little bit easier to grab onto, and it feels a little more natural in that choked up grip when you're going to power through some stuff as well. We've got a 2-position pocket clip on this guy, tip up carry, and a liner lock in this case. Folds up very neatly. You've got a simple elliptical profile when closed as well. Then opens up quite nicely, and you're ready to roll. Now this next one is actually one I think people kind of forget about, and that's the classic Buck 112 Ranger, made in the USA, coming in about $55 these days. Now, looking at the table here, there's quite a few knives that have a nice, very good feeling grip, nice hand filling, confidence inspiring, and this is honestly amongst some of the best, at least the way it fits in my particular hands. You've got that classic shape, fills the hand nicely because unlike a lot of modern folders, this is a little bit thicker in its cross section. We also get a little bit of weight as well because of the brass fittings and brass bolsters here, and kind of in that classic perception of weight equating with higher quality, that definitely works in the Ranger's favor right here. Now the wood inlays on these guys used to be a synthetic diamond wood, but even before that, it used to be real wood. And it's real wood again. They actually partner with Taylor Guitars and use parts that Taylor doesn't use when they make their ebony fretboards to make the inlays on these bucks. And as a result, you get a little bit of variation. As you can see, the front of this one has a nice light streak there in the middle that I think adds something quite interesting. As far as the blade itself, you've got that classic clip point profile, just that sized down version of the classic Buck Folding Hunter, the 110. We've got 420HC steel here, which Buck has a very good reputation for getting a lot of performance out of it. Finely ground, decent, actually pretty darn thin edge on this particular one. Just a classic, and it still definitely deserves a spot on this list and in your consideration for your EDC. All right, now this next knife is another budget guy, the CIVIVI Durus, and comes in about 65 bucks, and probably more than anything on this table really goes into the packaging of the blade and handle. It's kind of a masterclass on how to maximize the blade you're getting into, in this case, a kind of chunkier handle. It really is impressive. We've got almost exactly 3 inches of D2 steel here, very finely ground, nice thin edge. CIVIVI does that very well. And there is just enough handle here for me. It's kind of a 3.5 finger grip technically, but it feels extremely solid. I feel like I've got all 4 fingers wrapped around there quite nicely, just ready to push this blade through whatever obstacles in front of me. It's a little bit on the thicker side compared to some of the CIVIVIs out there. That's part of why it has that feeling. And it also has that nice elliptical neutral shape to it. So it's going to be very easy to hold on to. And when you look at the way it folds up, you can see the pivot is nice and close to the front of the handle here. And the point doesn't come all the way to the back of the handle, but very nearly close. We've got a bit of a G10 back spacer at the end there. You can also see we've got reversible deep carry pocket clip, which is quite nice. And then when you're ready to fire that out, we've got a ball bearing pivot. Just a lot going on here. I mean, I suppose they could have given you a little bit more edge without the finger choil there, but if you wanted, it is there to kind of choke up a little bit. But the bigger thing there, despite, rather than just maximizing edge, is the amount of space this is going to take up in your pocket versus the amount of capability you get. And that is definitely a thing that makes the Durus a winner for me. All right, now we're going to start going showing a few more premium options. And these next two are a little bit on the smaller side, at least on the handle. They don't feel like they kind of max things out as much as some of the things on this list, but still wanted to show them because they are going to be very capable in this size range. First is the DPx HEST F Urban Mil-Spec, this particular version coming in about $279 right now. This is American made. You've got G10 here on the front, thick slab of titanium on the back for the frame lock. And like I said, I'll hold it up next to that Durus kind of as a counterpoint. The handle doesn't seem as maxed out. This is a little bit smaller. Hold it up here next to that Buck as well. You'll see what I'm talking about. But it is just long enough for me to get all 4 of my fingers on there. And the blade itself is definitely built to take a beating. It's a bit thicker, as you can see, CPM 154 steel with a stout but still high flat grind. So it's got that cross-section capability between slicing and a bit more toughness. It's also going to carry quite nicely. Folded up, you see we've got a deep carry pocket clip there on the back, right up against that smooth titanium, so it's going to be not difficult to take in and out of your pocket when you need. And it still maintains that cutout in the spine from the larger models, which means you can use that both as a bottle opener and as a pocket deployer. So you really can get rapid access to this knife, even though it is a bit on the smaller side, but still packs in a lot of punch into its frame. Next up is kind of a similar story to that DPx. It's the Fox Knives Tur, designed by Jesper Vaknes and coming in about $225 right now. So a little bit cheaper than that DPx, but similar length to the blade. And at first, I felt like maybe this was a little bit thinner and it didn't kind of have the same impression to me just looking at it, but we've got almost equally as thick blade stock there, a little tiny bit thinner, and of course a higher grind as well, flat grind there. So a little bit slicier, but still plenty strong, and an even larger handle in this case, and a very comfortable handle too. It's carbon fiber, it's contoured, so it feels quite nice in the hand, fills up my grip, and plenty there to grab onto with this guy. That blade there actually speaks to me really nicely. It's got a very nice, simple drop point shape, simple but elegant. Like it's a kind of thing I really like. And we've got Elmax steel on board here for a really good amount of edge retention. Now the opening here is achieved with thumb studs. Interestingly enough, a lot of Fox knives have ball bearings. This one does not. It's got washers. And a lot of DPx knives have washers, but this particular one has bearings. So kind of interesting difference there for us. But the flicking action on this Fox is still quite nice. We've got a nice premium milled titanium pocket clip and backspacer as well, both kind of anodized this bronze color. Looks very nice. So for a gentlemanly option for a 3-inch harder use knife when needed, probably take a look at this guy. All right, this next knife is kind of an honorable mention, if you will, for this particular video, and that's the Kizer Minitherium, an Elijah Isham design. They started about $198 for the standard version, or about $329 for this upgraded version with Damasteel blades and a titanium bolster and carbon fiber handle. Now the reason I call this a bit more of an honorable mention in the context of this video is the handle design here. Just again, all these things are based on my hands, which are slightly larger than average, so take all of this kind of in that context at least. For me, it's a very, like, it kind of tells you where it wants you to hold it, and I don't really get the feeling of a nice full grip on this blade. I certainly have enough control over it. It just, you know, I'm kind of basing some of the picks on this video on that gorilla grip a little more than the other things. Like if you're wanting to push this knife above its particular weight class, in this case that 3-inch blade, this doesn't quite inspire as much confidence in that particular scenario for me as some of these others. But I really wanted to include it because look at that massive blade there. Big, broad, modified Wharncliffe. There is definitely a lot of capability baked into this pattern, especially with that Damasteel. You've got, you know, powder metallurgy performance, almost full flat grinds. You've got really good slicing profile as well. They are very nice. They certainly flip very nicely as well. And you've got that that kind of signature Isham design language from a couple years ago, that edge below flipper tab, so that it disappears into the handle and it doesn't stick out below the line of the actual edge itself. A lot of cool stuff going on here. So if your hands are a bit on the smaller side, this might do it for you. Or if you're not as concerned with that, you know, big old chunky gorilla grip, also could be worth a very hard look. All right, next up is one of my kind of newer favorites in this genre, and that's the SOG Kiku XR. The standard versions with Micarta or G10 coming in about $190 right now. And I do have to caveat this one just a little bit. Officially, the spec on this is a 3.03-inch blade, so it's like just over. I typically use a clear ruler when I'm measuring blade length, so I can pop it on there and see exactly where it falls. This particular one sits right under 3 inches, and that difference between 3 and 3.03 is so small that it could fall within the standard manufacturing tolerances of this knife. So if you happen to get one that's a skosh over, I was surprised this one was under. For me, it's so good on so many other merits that it's worth getting anyway, because just a little bit of time spent on the spine with a whetstone or a knife grinder, if you're a little more anal like me, you can bring that right down to that 3-inch mark and get this small powerhouse of a knife. Blade itself, CTS XHP, right at that 3-inch mark, and you get a lot of edge packed in. This probably is one of the guys, if not the guy, that maximizes the amount of edge you get in that 3-inch length. First off, you have a pretty significant amount of belly here, so that's a little bit more edge than a more Wharncliffe style profile. And you get that short and shallow recurve here near the front. Gives you, again, a little bit more edge than just a straight line there. Plus, you also get benefits from that when you're kind of ripping through something on the pull cuts. You get a little bit more, the angles, they kind of work in your favor on those draw cuts. The handles as well feel excellent here. Like I said, you've got micarta with some pretty good texturing going on, but it's not sharp or bitey, and it just fills my hand up exceptionally nicely. One thing to note, there are some lightweight versions, the Kiku XR LTE, that come. It's kind of a similar story to the Spyderco lightweight from earlier, although these particular LTE models from SOG have a bit more going for them, perhaps, in that we've got carbon fiber liners on those. They still feel plenty strong. It's still the same shape, but they are a little bit more expensive due to the materials in that particular case. The reason I like this knife so much, though, apart from just it feels good and you get a lot of performance in that 3-inch range, is their XR lock. You folks know I love pretty much any and all crossbar locks out there. I like the ambidextrous quality to it. I like that ability to keep your fingers out of the edge. And the way SOG likes to do it, they give you essentially 3 different opening mechanisms here. You can do just your simple one-handed thumb opening. They give you a flipper tab, which is actually fairly hard to do a decent flipper on a crossbar lock knife, but SOG has it nailed. And then of course you've got just the centrifugal flick as well. And then you've still got that nice SOG signature element to their version of this lock. Pull that lock bar back, and it's already starting to push that blade out, helping you a little bit. Just a solid, hard-working knife that is not going to take up too much room in your pocket. Now, kind of similar vibes in a way from kind of the chunky perspective is this knife from We Knife Company. This is the Valiant. Regular price on these are about $245 these days. Blades on these right under that 3-inch mark, S35 VN, very nicely finished. Kind of similar to CIVIVI, their sister brand. They give you some nice fine edges on these as well. The handles are titanium. We've got a carbon fiber inlay actually on both sides as well. Gives you a little bit of extra traction because they've milled it out. And thanks to the slightly chunkier nature going on here, still has a very confidence-inspiring grip, even though it's just a 3.5 finger grip for me as compared to that SOG where I got all 4 on there. Just solid feeling as can be. We've also got some really solid lockup thanks to that titanium frame lock there. Ball bearings in the pivot and the flipper tab means you can access it quite readily as well. All right, couple more premium options real quick. We've got the Italian-made MKM Colvera, which comes in about $260 these days. If there's one theme you can kind of take through some of these last few knives, it's that we've got these nice broad blade shapes that don't feel dainty at all. I mean, compare that to the very needle-like MKM Flame I had at the beginning. Just gives you an entirely different feel and impression of the knife as you hold it. We've got M390 steel here, just kind of an elegant, I guess it's technically a drop point, but it has a little bit of the vibe of kind of a shortened down bullnose Skinner or something like that. Some nice lines going on, very elegant. Now we do have M390 steel. It folds up very nicely into this excellent milled titanium handle. It's got some excellent lines going on here as well. Pocket clip that is milled, semi-floating back spacer right here. And if you look at the flipper tab right here, we've got a signature Lion Steel element, because Lion Steel is actually the one, the company that built this for MKM. You've got the removable flipper tab right there, which is pretty cool. So this is less important for us here in the States where we don't necessarily have to worry about flippers in general, but for some other places, you can't really have a one-hand opening knife that locks, unfortunately. So this is a good option for some of you folks out there. But it's certainly a nice, easy 2-hand opener, but it still flips nicely thanks to ball bearings in the pivot, and the handle fills things up quite nicely. A little bit slimmer than that Wii, so it's going to carry a little bit flatter, maybe a little bit easier there, but it still feels ready to go. All right, last but not least is definitely the knife that gives me personally the most handle to hold on to in this size of knife. And that is the ArtisanCutlery Wren. And the nice thing about this is there's 2 tiers of this. So if you're a more premium knife buyer, there's an option for you. Or if you're a budget conscious buyer, there's an option for you too. The standard version comes with a D2 blade, G10 handles I want to say, and that comes in about $52. Not bad. Or you can go for this upgraded version that's got contoured titanium and S35 VN, and the price on these guys is about $188. So not cheap, but not bad compared to some of the other more premium stuff out there, and especially compared to some of the other knives we've looked at today either. The modified Wharncliffe blade here is pretty nice. It's not a complete straight edge. You've got a little bit of upsweep to it so that the tip sits in maybe a slightly more natural place for most folks. And again, a good balance, kind of like that DPx, between thick enough blade stock where you're kind of really inspired with confidence in it, but a high enough flat grind that you're still going to be able to slice day to day a little bit better than you might expect. But the handle, like I said, is a bit of a rock star for me. I can get all 4 of my fingers on the main section there, no problem. Doesn't feel crowded. You've got that contouring to the titanium itself to help keep things nice and comfortable. And I don't even need that finger choil up there near the front. And even if I did, it might be a little bit small because I kind of have big fingers as well. But this really does hit kind of all of those marks exceptionally nicely. We've also got some nice colors available on this particular knife. Some classier looking colors, but this one feels a little less gentlemanly to me than something like that MKM. So if that's your primary concern, if it were me, I would probably not go this particular direction, but it still has kind of a nice fancy high-tech feel. We've got a milled titanium pocket clip. The G10 versions on the budget end of the spectrum do have almost completely deep carry pocket clips here. You are going to have a little bit sticking up, but if you want a lower profile, those are definitely the way to go. Frame lock holds it in nicely, folds up quite well. It's not too wide in your pocket. And of course, with ball bearings, it's going to flip like a rock star. All right, that's all I've got to show you today. I hope you kind of enjoyed this roundup of small but mighty folders. Let me know what you thought. What are your favorite kind of harder used 3-inch knives out there that may not have shown up in this video? Would love to hear that. In the meantime, if you want to get your hands on any of these knives, we'll leave links in the description as always. That'll take you over to KnifeCenter.com. Make sure you sign up for our Knife Rewards program while you're there, because if you're going to spend your money on one of these knives, might as well earn some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center signing off. See you next time.